This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by late fees.
Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and I almost forgot how to introduce the show. We are back and we are talking 90s once more. My time machine is loaded up with stonewashed jeans. Have I used that reference already? Probably. Loaded up with cassette tapes, VHSs, and a Movieland video card. RIP. And today's guest is one of my favorites. I say that all the time about every guest, but this really is true. He's been away for a little while, but I'm really happy to have him back. I'm obsessed with the dude. You guys know this. It is Mr. Nick Owen. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me on. As always, it's a pleasure to be back.
It is a legitimate joy to see you. We were talking for about half an hour before this. I was like, it's just really nice to see my friend again.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to be talking 90s with you. I'm an 80s baby by a matter of months. I'm June 89, so
yeah.
But for 6 months, I could have been a 90s baby.
That's it. We've talked about this a few times, and these are kind of our formative years because I'm also an 80s kid, but raised through the 90s. I will give a quick disclaimer to the audience. Nick and I are both sick. That's why you can hear how gravelly my voice is, but we will press on and be the almighty movie gods that you know and love us to be.
Yeah, good disclaimer there. If I just lose track of my sentence halfway through, like I almost did there, I'm battling a cold and mental exhaustion. So
I actually watched a movie literally the other night, and look, it could very well be on your list. So if it is on your list, I guess just ignore this. But I watched a movie that definitely feels like a Nick Owen film, 1990s film, Martin Scorsese. I finally watched Cape Fear.
Do you know that's one of the few Scorsese films I have not seen?
It is dark.
So is that I having not seen it, I'm pretty sure I know what it's about. Is that Robert De Niro plays a crazed? Is he a stalker or something like that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you ever watched the Simpsons episodes called Cape Fear, where Sideshow Bob stalks them and tries to kill Bart. So that's obviously a parody of that. I can't believe they parodied that movie. It's so dark. He's an ex-murderer, but also a rapist and a child abuser and stuff.
Oh, geez.
That's the setup. And he's just been released from prison after serving 14 years, I think it was 7 or 14. And he's trying to hunt down the lawyer that defended him and lost the case. And then he's stalking him and his teenage daughter and his wife.
Nick Nolte, right?
Nick Nolte, who the entire time I thought was someone else. He looked like a different actor. I can't think who I thought he looked like now, but I was like, is that this other person? And it was Nick Nolte. Juliette Lewis plays the daughter, and Jessica Lange. But it definitely feels like a Nick Owen film. I feel like you'd really dig it. I'll be honest, I waited over 30 years to watch it, and it was worth the wait. But that being said, when that score kicks in, I couldn't help but laugh because you just hear it plays throughout that entire Simpsons episode.
Yeah. Isn't that scary though? That we're talking about. To me, I don't know if it's just me, but for me, the decade seems set in stone, and I haven't reevaluated that. To me, the 70s is 30 years ago, because when you grew up around our age, it's 2000 when we were going through starting to go through high school. You're 70s, 30 years ago. The 1990s is
50 years ago, the 70s.
Now the 1990s is 30 years ago.
A beloved film on this show, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. The last Lord of the Rings film turns 20 this year, so I feel old about that. Yeah. How have you been, my friend? It's been a little while since you've been on the show.
I've been good, very busy. As I was telling you just before we started, I've been on gallivanting around Australia for work, so that's been at times really fun and also challenging, but really cool to get to see some places I hadn't been before. Obviously, I'd been to Sydney before. I'd been to Canberra on school camp, so it was nice to go back there. And I've been to Adelaide when I was a kid as well. But
I love Adelaide. Adelaide is an underrated city.
It's really nice. It's a really pretty city. But Perth was fantastic. I'd never been to Perth.
Love Perth as well. It's like
yeah.
a big national park with a city in the middle.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And like, excuse me, my interests are, apart from movies and music, which we talk about a lot on the podcast, is coffee, craft beer, and they've got a lot of that kind of cool stuff over there in Perth as well. So I'm keen. Obviously, I was only there for a couple of days for work, but I'm really keen to go back for another visit. And yeah, up in Brisbane as well. So definitely a busy few weeks. And I noticed while I was on the road, I'm not much of I think because I'm exploring new things and it's a lot of, you're just so busy. I was like, I definitely didn't feel like watching anything new. Like The Last of Us was out. I didn't really feel like watching that. I was just like, give me The Simpsons. I was just rewatching.
Yeah.
I started The Simpsons again from season 4. That seems to be at my point where I go back into
Yeah,
The
me
Simpsons.
too. Season 4 is generally my starting off point. Yeah. No, good one.
You know what I have realized about season 4 of The Simpsons? Homer's like, I think they kind of rounded him out a little bit. He's a real prick in season 4. Like, things you don't pick up on as a kid, you're just like, wow, he's actually a bit of a shit person.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. That's generally my starting point. I was rewatching The Simpsons a little while ago, and I was watching it with Zoe because she I was like, well, I'm not going to, like, my parents wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons when I was a kid. I'm not going to do that to my daughter. And then, like, there was an episode where, like, it was Itchy and Scratchy, and one of I think the mouse, I can't remember their names. I should know it, but like at this time of the day, at this point in the year, I can't remember. But the mouse was like glassing him with a broken bottle. I was like, all right, I can't. Sorry, kids. Like, I guess I am like my parents. You can't watch this.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's me wrapped up, dealing with some leaky taps in the old house as well.
You're saying that. I mean, it's not no bird in the wall, but
yeah, that's right.
They both smell just as bad, I imagine.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just waiting for that. Like, it's been a few days now, and the thing's in the process of being fixed. But I'm like, oh, you can't have a leak this long and it not start to smell of moldy water. So,
especially if it's getting in your carpet, it's going to be a mighty fine pain in the bum.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if the listeners want to hear about my leaky taps.
This is actually, this week we're actually doing top 5 leaky taps and tap related movies.
Well, I'm trying to think of anything plumber. I guess like the Super Mario Bros are plumbers, so that kind of
sure are. Absolutely. And all those like flood movies, we can just go with like flood movies, like Crawl, where like the alligators were in the house or whatever.
Yeah.
That was a fun film. I've been rewatching some stuff. I've been trying to consume new media, but I've been doing a lot of rewatching. I did the Scream collection a few weeks back, and I've just been going through Tarantino's filmography because I haven't done the Tarantino movies in a while. I'll do favorites every year, but I don't do all of them. So I'm just about finished Kill Bill Part 1, so Volume 1. Sorry.
Sorry.
There you go.
Then. No, I was going to say, when you're rewatching Tarantino's, do you start at True Romance or do you start at Reservoir Dogs, or do you go earlier?
So I started Reservoir Dogs, but what I did, so I put my Tarantino films in order, and then once I finish it, I've got True Romance and Natural Born Killers. To watch afterwards, just as a little amuse bouche, or I don't know, a little an aperitif or whatever they call it.
Like a digestif.
Yeah, like now that I'm done, here's my little port to get me through the night.
Yeah, an aperitif would be beforehand. So what's like?
I'm not classy like you.
Does he have like a writing credit on something from the real early 90s that could be the aperitif?
I should watch the Reservoir Dogs short film, like the 20-minute film, whatever that he did before to get the funding for the movie. Or like just his one section from Sin City, just like that scene that he shot. Like that's my aperitif. That's also on my list. I'm going to rewatch the Sin City films this year. I've got a few things. I'm like, I'm in a huge rewatch mood, and like normally I do the Marvel Cinematic Universe every couple of years, but I think I'm going to give them a break and go with some classics I haven't watched in a while. So.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd love to do a Marvel rewatch. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd struggle to find the time, but I think in the next couple of years, I would just love to do phase 1 to 3.
I did it last year. So before Doctor Strange came out, I watched all the Marvel films. I didn't rewatch the TV shows. They're too time consuming. Like they're great, but they're too time consuming. So I did everything leading up to Multiverse of Madness. And it was fun. Like it was solid. I had a great time. There wasn't a single film that I didn't enjoy. I go back and forth on Incredible Hulk a lot. Like I love that film, but then a few years back I watched it. I was like, it's fine. And then last year when I watched it, I'm like, no, it's great. Like so I do go back and forth on that one a little bit. But it's a good viewing. And I liked Phase 4 quite a bit. I know there was a divisive phase, but I thought the films were solid. Like looking over it now, I've got them right next to me. Like loved Black Widow, loved Shang-Chi, loved Eternals, loved No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, like Wakanda Forever. I loved them all. I thought they were all great. And I did go and see the first chapter of Phase 5 last weekend as well. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah. Do we want to go into? I'd obviously no spoilers because I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But like, I did see you obviously posted about it, and it has been copping some criticism. I have heard that.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what the criticisms were. Like to me, it's very much a Marvel film. Like the stakes are higher than normal, but it's not an Avengers film, so they're not like crazy high. It still has all the fun and charm of an Ant-Man film. I thought it was well paced. I liked the villain. I thought Kang was really interesting. The post-credit scenes were good.
Because the one thing this is not a criticism, but one thing I've heard about the film is it carries a lot of legwork for the next kind of phases, right? We've been introduced to like the next big bad.
It does, but like I would say, considering how the film ends, and I won't go too much into it because I don't want to spoil it, but like I would say in a similar way to how Guardians of the Galaxy set up Thanos. Like Thanos is in Guardians of the Galaxy more than any other film up to that point, and he's there. But like it takes us a while to get to Kang. I'll say that. That's about as much of a spoiler I'll give you. It takes a little while to get to Kang in the movie. And when he's there, he's great. Like Jonathan Majors came to play. Like he is solid in the flick. I loved MODOK. Like he's been, I think, the most divisive part of the film because he's quite a beloved kind of niche character in the comics, and they probably went a little bit sideways with this interpretation. But I thought he was like consistently funny and amusing, and like with a character that wacky. Like Tina said afterwards, she goes, "I don't know, man. Like most people who don't read Marvel comics have been along for the ride so far, but I think MODOK might break them." I said, "I don't think so, man. Like we got the Talking Tree Raccoon movie back in 2014. I think people are ready for a head with arms and legs." And she kind of pushed back. I said, "I don't know, man." I'm like, "Did you like MODOK in this?" And she goes, "Well, more than I thought I would." I'm like, "There you go." Like we were in an audience, a full cinema with people. I can guarantee most of them hadn't read a MODOK comic, and everyone was laughing at the gag. So I think it works. So, and I think you have to do that character in that way. Otherwise, that's when you're going to alienate your audience. That's where you're going to have trouble with your audiences if they if you're trying to make that character too serious. Like he needs to be in a comedic role. You need to put him in with like Deadpool or the Guardians or with Ant-Man. But I won't say much else. I went in getting exactly what I wanted from it. Those trailers made me think it was going to be a pretty father-daughter focused movie, and it is exactly what it was. And there were a couple of moments that made me tear up. And it wasn't even like someone's life being threatened or someone dying or anything like that. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't happen, but I'm also not saying it does happen. But there was one moment in particular where, like, when it happened, I was just like, "Oh, that's me. That's me as a dad." Okay, like, okay, I got that.
Yeah.
But if you like the first two Ant-Man films, you'll like this one. It's a blast. I had so much fun with it. And that is all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I loved the first two Ant-Man films, and like I just reckon he's like a standout character in the standout comic book series. Like all the Avengers and stuff like that.
Well, we went and saw Ant-Man and the Wasp together. I remember afterwards, and I'd seen it at that point, but I was like, "I'll go see it again if you want to go see it." So we went and saw it. And afterwards, I'm like, "What did you think?" And you're like, "I'll be honest, man. Like this has turned out to be one of the strongest like character franchises in the Marvel universe."
And like I don't know how the hell that happened.
I think it's the levity. I think it's just that the Captain America films are great, but they're very serious. The Thor films started off quite serious, and then they found levity in Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. The Avengers films, have some laughs, but they tend to play a bit more serious as well. So I think just like Ant-Man was a very family-friendly franchise. Like this is the first one that's rated M. Previously, they were both PG. So you can take your kids to them, or you can you don't have to worry about it like being a bit too adult and stuff like that. And I think it's just, in a world where we were getting like gritty superheroes, it's like, well, there's Ant-Man. And you're right, like his interactions in those other films, like in Captain America: Civil War, like Ant-Man to me is hands down one of the best moments, where it's just like, "You're Captain America. I'm shaking your hand too much."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah. That is so funny.
and or like when he gets the shield back, "I believe this belongs to you, Captain America."
Yeah.
Like just some of the weird stuff in there. Yeah, if you like Paul Rudd, like you'll have a great time, because it's just Paul. Like there is one very, very mild spoiler. It doesn't affect the plot, but there is, if you've been watching the trailers or you've been paying attention to the marketing, you know that he's written a book in this movie. Like he's written like about being Ant-Man. There is a joke which is a reference to something that happens in Endgame, which was so funny. Like I could not stop laughing. I was just like almost in tears. And it was just like again, like I think the biggest criticism from critics was like Marvel is now at a point where you can no longer watch a film without having watched a good chunk of the other films. I think
Yeah,
that was their biggest criticism, which to me, by the way, is like, well, they've been doing it for like 15 years, guys. Like they've been training us for this. So
yeah. But I think that's kind of the point by this point, though, isn't it? Like, I don't know, like, I guess everyone's got to have an entry point, and there might be some youngster who is like, "Oh, I just want to go see a comic book film," and then would then go from Ant-Man, Quantumania, all the way back to the start. Like, yeah, that may happen, but like, I don't know. At this point, when you're going to build on a story that's had like, how many films are we at? 25, something like that.
no, we've passed 30.
30 films.
I think.
Like, there's only so much like exposition you can do at the start of a film for newcomers. James is counting for those in the
Wakanda
background.
Forever, I believe, was movie 30. So Quantumania
There you go.
31. So yeah,
31. Yeah.
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. But also, like, isn't part of the fun of these films is going back and rewatching them and seeing all the references? Because, like, I remember the first time I saw Winter Soldier, like they mentioned Stephen Strange. Well, I was a comic book guy, but I wasn't a huge comic book guy at that point, so I didn't know who Stephen Strange was. So then to go back, I'm like, oh, they're talking about Doctor Strange. Like that's a cool little reference. Or like I'm trying to think. Or like like if you go back and rewatch Endgame, you probably said the first time. If you watch it the second or third time, in that portal scene, how are the ducks there? Like who'd previously only appeared in the Guardians films in little cameos. Like that's cool. Like the fun of those films is they are insanely rewatchable and they get better once they're in context of the other movies. Like Thor, the Dark World, which is universally maligned by fans. Not me. I love Dark World. I think Dark World's hugely underrated. Was made more relevant and interesting following Endgame when they provided that time travel scene. So yeah, I don't I don't think it's a bad problem to have. Like, oh no, you have to watch all of our movies to enjoy our movies. Like, oh, well, I'm going to have a terrible couple of weeks, like watching all these great movies. So I don't know, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to just get your reaction to, I think the trailer only came out since the Super Bowl, so I don't know if you would have.
I love Super Bowl weekend because I don't watch football, but I love movies.
And I mean, there was a few different trailers that came out, but the one that really piqued my interest was the Flash trailer.
It looks incredible.
So a few things to note: Ben Affleck back as Bruce,
which I think most people knew, or like anyone paying attention knew. But he's in that trailer. If I had to guess, I think he's our Batman for the first like 20 minutes of the movie, and then Barry goes back in time, and then that's it. That's what I
did not know was coming was Michael Keaton.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I don't think I did. I mean, unless I've forgotten that bit of knowledge.
It was cool seeing him in that suit and seeing like the gallery of suits that he had as well.
Yeah.
Like there was, that was very, very cool. Because he was also Batman in the Batgirl movie that got cancelled. So I think the Batgirl was meant to come out after the Flash, and it was going to be like kind of like he was the mentor to Batgirl. And Brendan Fraser was a villain in that movie, but that film got scrapped. Like it got shot and completed, and then DC were like, we're never releasing this. So
I do remember that happening. Yeah, okay, but it does look great, doesn't it?
I mean, we've got General Zod, we've got Supergirl, who looks fantastic. I'm a huge Supergirl fan. Like I started just by watching that show because I was like, she's like really cute and funny and like a bit of a dork. And then I started reading Supergirl comics. I'm like, geez, like people like just write her off as like, and I'll use someone else's words, Superman with boobs. But
Yeah.
there's such a complex character there because Superman obviously was a boy when he was shipped off to Earth, but Supergirl was a teenager when she finally moved to Earth. So she'd already kind of grown up and known her family and then lost everything. And then she was meant to leave around the same time as Kal-El, but then her ship got knocked off course. So by the time she got back, even though she's his older cousin, he was a grown man and she was still a teenager. So there's some really weird ideas in there. There's a great storyline where she becomes part of the Red Lantern Corps. So the Red Lanterns from the Green Lantern universe, and the Red Lanterns are powered by rage. And she's so angry and alone that she becomes part of their team and is just borderline a murderer, but it's so well done. So I'm really keen to see Supergirl, and we're getting a Supergirl movie now as well, which I don't think I don't know if it's the same actress, but we're getting that. The Flash ring looks great. That's a big part of his stories, how the ring opens up and the suit comes out. It looked cool.
Yeah, that did look really cool, actually. Reminded me of OG Iron Man.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're a fan of the comics, if anyone's ever read Flashpoint Paradox, that's what this movie was meant to be based on. And then there was all these rumors about whether it was going to be that or not. This movie is 100% Flashpoint Paradox. There is actual screen grabs from the comic. They've done a Zack Snyder and recreated panels. With Supergirl, there's one point where you see her. It's a really darkly lit shot, and then a flashlight goes past her. You can just kind of see her cowering and weak in the dark. That happens to Superman in the comics. Instead of landing in Kansas, he landed on a military base and he was locked away from people so they could experiment on him and stuff. He never got to be Superman. He never had any powers or anything. So it looks like they're doing a lot of that stuff. I can't wait. I think it looks fantastic.
I wonder if it'll bring back some, juice to the DC franchise.
Well, I don't know if you saw James Gunn's announcement, but he said first of all, he said The Flash is one of the best superhero movies he's ever seen in his life, which I'll take with a grain of salt because he's marketing the universe. But also, I feel like James Gunn is pretty honest about stuff.
Yeah.
But he also said it's the reset button. So once that movie ends, it'll reset the continuity. So some actors will retain the roles they've been cast in and others will be replaced. So we're going to get a new Superman. We're going to get a new Batman. No word on whether there's a new Wonder Woman, but there is a Wonder Woman show coming, or an Amazon show coming. The Suicide Squad, I imagine, will be pretty much the same because why would James Gunn erase his own movie? But no, it all looks very cool. The Guardians trailer looks great as well. The only trailer I didn't watch was the Indiana Jones one because I saw the first one and I don't want to. I'm happy. I don't need to see any more. I'll just go and see Indiana Jones when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that trailer. I want to go on record as being nervous about that.
Well, it is directed by James Mangold, who did Logan.
That's true.
I got high hopes. I'm keen.
I was so disappointed by Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
How many times have you seen Crystal Skull?
Twice, I reckon.
Yeah, I watched it once in cinemas with my dad when it came out, and I remember not having the problem with that film that everyone else seemed to have. But also, I wasn't a diehard Indiana Jones fan. I'd seen the films a couple of times, but at that point, I didn't have that same connection to the material. So I remember thinking it was fine. And then, of course, in my snobby years, I just ragged on the film because everyone else did. But I'd only seen it the one time. I'm keen to give it a rewatch. I bet you it doesn't age. I bet you it hasn't aged as poorly as people think. I bet you there's stuff in it that's it's probably nice seeing Indy doing stuff. The alien thing is a bit strange, but
yeah.
Could be worse. It could be time traveling with robots or something.
Just whenever all else fails, mate, remember that knowledge was their power.
Is that a line from the movie?
That's the denouement of the movie.
I'll keep that in mind. But I remember, honestly, all I really remember from that movie is the ending, of course. But there was a moment where they returned to the warehouse, and then an action scene erupted from the warehouse being blown apart and a car chase with Nazis. I'm like, I'm sorry, did people hate awesome things? This is great. Maybe there was some monkeys swinging by, which is a bit weird thing as well. But I don't know. I was like, you returned to the warehouse. You've done a cool thing for me. I like that.
Yeah. All right. You watch it and let me know if it's good.
I mean, I am, I've been marking myself as the most positive guy in podcasting these last couple of months. So I'll probably come back and be it's a ripper. Go check it out. And you'll be like, James's first bad recommendation. I got mean on the podcast recently. I'm very, very positive about movies, but recently I did get a little bit mean.
Yeah.
Josh and I were talking. We got sidetracked, and talked about Secrets of Dumbledore. I won't go over it again because I'm sure the listeners are like, geez, you've already talked about this film. But I watched it and I had some concerns, and I was a little bit less reserved than I am normally.
So yeah, I still haven't seen that.
I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Have you seen the other Fantastic Beasts films?
Yeah, of course, man. I really, really enjoyed the first one. I thought the first one was great.
Okay.
I thought it was like, I thought it was a really good, like, soft reboot. Like, I had a few questions about like things that I'm willing to forgive because I'm just a massive nerd, like lore and like the sort of rules of the universe. A few things like that, but you know, I can forgive those things. But the second one was like, and then I haven't seen this one because I haven't heard anyone recommend it yet.
I would say watch it. Like, there's some interesting. There's definitely some positives. Like, they did some stuff. Like, they went to Dumbledore's backstory, which is something they weren't able to do in the Harry Potter films. So, if you've read the books, which I'm pretty sure you've read the books, if I remember correctly, yeah,
the Harry Potter books.
Yeah.
Oh, just once or twice.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Like, I was pretty certain you had. So all the stuff about his sister and like the issues he has with his brother, stuff like that's all covered in this movie. Which I was like, oh great! Like, I'm glad we finally got to talk about that because that was covered in Deathly Hallows in the book. So there's definitely a lot of positives there, and there's some really fun moments. But then there's other stuff where I'm just scratching my head a little bit. But look, I knew early on with that franchise that it wasn't really for me anymore. Like, they were going for a different audience. We're just trying to do something different with it, which isn't what I'm looking for. So I can enjoy them on a base level, but I'd be interested to hear your opinion. Like, you might find some stuff in it that that I've missed.
I do love Mads Mikkelsen.
He's great. He's in the first scene, and like 30 seconds, and you're like, oh yeah, he's the best choice for this role. I said to Tina, I said, look, I actually like Johnny Depp in the role. Like, personal politics and the man himself aside, like whatever's going on there. I actually didn't have a problem with him as Grindelwald. I thought he was a lot better than I was expecting. But once Mads is on screen, like literally, I said to Tina, I said, look, I liked Johnny Depp, but gee, like in 30 seconds, he's convinced me that he should be in this role.
Yeah.
So he's good, and yeah, there's some great stuff in it, but there's some weird stuff as well. People are probably listening to me like, aren't you guys going to talk about the 90s today? We absolutely are. Before we jump into the list itself, we do a bit of a preamble. What do the 90s mean to you? What do you think of when you look back at the 90s?
Well, look, we've mentioned a few little like buzzwords that to me bring me the warm and fuzzies of the 90s. Blockbuster being one of them. I was like just jotting down some notes before just sort of things to go over. And the first thing I wrote down was VHS tapes.
Yeah, boy.
A medium that makes me so nostalgic. And we kind of like, I remember telling you this sort of anecdote when we did, I don't know if it was the first time I came on your show, but you were sort of asking about each of your guests, like how did they get into film and stuff like that. And for me, it goes hand in hand with the 90s decade of like that thrill of getting to go up to a Blockbuster. We had a local Blockbuster in Mitcham, so we're very close by, and like picking out your overnight and 2 weeklies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I wasn't even local to the area, but I think I remember. Was it near like where the Anytime Fitness was, or like the Subway? Or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I first moved out, it was still there. Like, I moved out to Lilydale in around 2012, and I think there would have still been. I think it was like in its final days. I remember vaguely there being a Blockbuster there.
It might have changed. It became like a place called Mitcham Video or something along those lines. But
I love that. I love the independence. They're so good.
But like for me, I think back on the films that were like the films that were just on replay in my house, and it was your thing. It was like True Lies by a James Cameron film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was like Batman Forever, the Jim Carrey one, Val Kilmer as Batman. And doing this list, this is probably the list that has the most honorable mentions. Like, there's just so many amazing films. And it's only since I've become a bit of a film snob myself and about the different eras. So you have opinions about the different eras, but I was reflecting on the fact that, throughout the 70s and the 80s, you've got like Scorsese and like Francis Ford Coppola, Stanley Kubrick, and like Spielberg, just to name a few, who kind of felt like 70s and 80s, they were really like creating new techniques, new ways to tell stories, and really pushing like movies forward. And tell me if you disagree with this, because this is just my own opinion based off like the movies I've seen. But I feel like in the 90s, you've possibly got the first generation of filmmakers who, they're that video store generation
100%.
who are able to like take for the first time, and this is where I don't know if this opinion is accurate, but for the first time, like you've got people like Tarantino who are able to like look backwards and then create this new kind of style of film by like paying homage to like like black exploitation films of the 70s, like kung fu films and all that kind of stuff. So that's just something I was thinking of today. I was just philosophizing on what the 90s were.
I feel like it's the first generation of true film fans. Like you do have a couple. Like, Spielberg was definitely a movie fan, like by all accounts. But I feel like a lot of people up until like the late 80s, early 90s were like, well, it's a job. Like it's a job. Like, and I can lift concrete or I can make a movie. And there's a lot of sex and drugs involved in movies and less with concrete, so I'll probably go do that. But like this was the like kind of the beginning of like the rise of the nerds and the fans and stuff, like Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, like all those 90s staples directors like were absolutely that, like film fans. And then it just kept going, obviously from the 2000s onwards. Like then was real. Like then you get like your J.J. Abramses and Damon Lindelof, who's more of a writer than a director, but I think he's directed a couple of things. You start getting like, Zack Snyder and James Gunn and people who are like, just obsessed with movie, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah. So great decade for the action film. I mean, Arnie just cementing himself in the pantheon of greats. You go from like those like military type like
Commando
action
and
films.
Predator.
Yeah, Commando, Predator, that kind of thing. Exactly right. So like things are a little more nuanced. Like Last Action Hero was a massive film for me. I think it's more of a niche kind of Arnie film, but Last Action Hero, True Lies, like what's the one where he's like Total Recall? Thank you.
Yeah, and then he also cracks the family market and does things like Jingle All the Way and Batman and Robin and stuff like that, where he kind of crosses over into that, which is not an easy market to crack, especially if you're the European guy shooting people up for a living.
Yeah, that's right. And phenomenal decade for comedies. I was thinking about this as well. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I've talked about this a few times, but we get the bad boys of SNL. So you get your Chris Rocks, your Adam Sandlers, David Spade, Chris Farley.
Yep. And I feel like it's a real bridging year between, or maybe it was decade. So the decade off the raunchy comedy for the most part, because I feel like the 80s, you've got that like comedy in the 80s was like you'd go to see like Chevy Chase or Bill Murray quip for 90 minutes, and you'd probably just go to see like some boobs as well. That was like
a little bit, some mild cursing, a couple of naked women. Very rare for you to see a naked man, and then that's it. But they weren't like telling vulgar jokes.
No,
like it was pretty harmless. Like there are a couple of exceptions where like the jokes maybe not vulgar, but the subject matter is very iffy, like by today's standards. But like the 90s kind of leads into the Apatow era, where then everything is kind of free game. You can just say whatever you like.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like that Apatow era, like the real frat humor. I think it was like 2001 is when Old School came out, and I kind of feel like that's the real like kicking off point for like Will Ferrell, Owen Wilson, those guys. But like the 90s, you really had that like slapstick, just like stupid humor. Like obviously Jim Carrey came along, Adam Sandler. Just a phenomenal decade for comedy, really.
I was gonna say the only precursor maybe to even Old School is There's Something About Mary, which is a 90s film as well. You
yeah.
get that. The Farrelly brothers. And again, like lesser known, but definitely influential Kevin Smith. Like, especially Mallrats, I think would be the most influential of his comedies, even though to me it's one of his, not weaker films, but definitely like lower on my ranking of his films. But like that was like the teen frat comedy that kind of launched a thousand ships, as it were. Like that's the one that kind of, influenced, Judd Apatow and the Farrelly brothers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He had it's funny. He tells a story actually. There's a joke in There's Something About Mary. Obviously, if you've seen that movie or even the poster, you know that there's a hair joke in that. And he wrote the same joke for Mallrats, and the studio was like, "No, you can't put that joke in the film. No one will laugh. It's disgusting. No one will ever want to see a movie with that joke in it." And then someone else put it in their movie, and they made like $100 million.
Yeah. And it was literally the main talking point from the film.
It's in the theatrical poster. Like you would walk down the cinemas, and in the poster, there's that hair joke. But I agree. It's a great decade for so many reasons. Like the comedies are fantastic. You got these new kind of, I would say maybe tamer action films we've seen past. It like almost feels like I guess in American speak, the PG-13 action film, but not a bad thing.
No, I think the hard edge of like those R18 action movies of the 80s where you're seeing people get machine gunned to death, you know, like they're sort of like, phased out a little bit.
We're seeing the beginning of CGI that's starting to hold up a lot more. Like there's obviously still a lot of work to be done. If you look at, like Phantom Menace, for example, look, I don't have a problem with that film, but the CGI is obviously leaves a lot to be desired. It was very, very new. We also get the rise of Nicolas Cage in the 90s.
Like, do you know how many times I nearly put a Nicolas Cage film at number 1 on my list, and I was like, "Stop it! What are you doing?"
I don't want to spoil this, but like you get The Rock and Face Off and Con Air, and I want to say Snake Eyes and 8mm all in the same decade. Like those are 5 huge films.
I honestly think that was in like a 3 or 4 year stretch as well. I'm pretty sure Con Air, Face Off, and The Rock are in consecutive years. Now that is a run. And
I think they're mostly Bruckheimer films. I think Face Off is John Woo, but I think the other 2 are Bruckheimer films. Like, no, what's his name?
Face Off is definitely John Woo because it's got doves flying.
No, The Rock is what's his name? The one that everyone hates, but he's not that bad. It's the Transformers guy, Michael Bay.
Oh, yep.
I'm pretty sure Michael Bay did The Rock. I think Bruckheimer produced, but it's a solid decade, which I have a lot of affection for as well. This was actually, I'm not doing my list today, but I can tell you, I've been trying to do my list since we scheduled this, and I've struggled because it's such a great decade.
I struggled. Obviously, I'll have so many honorable mentions. So my top 5 could have changed depending on the day we did this. In fact, it did change over the last few days, just constantly rearranging. But the final thought I had on sort of this conversation's turned from what the 90s mean to me, but the other thought I had on the 90s was I can't remember too many rom-coms or romantic comedies in the 80s. Like they did exist, but you have your who's that director who did When Harry Met Sally? I can't think of her name.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. You look her up while I'm talking.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan.
But the 90s, you've got the rise of Meg Ryan.
It was Rob Reiner.
Okay. Who directed Sleepless in Seattle then? Was that not the same director who... Anyway, you look
Nora Ephron.
Oh, Nora Ephron.
Who did write the other one.
Yeah,
Harry Met Sally. So that's where the connection is. So yeah. I'll give you that.
But you've got the rise of Meg Ryan, Julia Roberts. It's kind of hard. Obviously, when you're a kid in the 90s, you don't really understand who's famous versus who's mega famous. But looking back now, there's not many people who have ever been in movies as famous as Julia Roberts was in that run from Pretty Woman.
She was a name that I knew before I knew I liked movies.
And I think it's sort of par for the course now that a rom-com could be a massive film, some of our favorite films for the last 20 years are probably, like a Knocked Up or something like that. But like reflecting, in the 80s, the 10 biggest films of the 80s, I bet many weren't rom-coms. It really wasn't a genre that, if it existed, it didn't get a lot of airtime. Whereas,
Yeah, there would have been some romance. Like Dirty Dancing is probably a pretty big one from the 80s, but I don't know. I still haven't seen Dirty Dancing. It's on my list. But I don't think it's much of a com. I think it's more of a rom.
It's more rom than
as
com.
it were.
But yeah, like you've got the book ended by Sleepless, which was like early 90s, and then you've got Mail in like the late 90s, and you had all the Julia Roberts films like Pretty Woman, My Best Friend's Wedding, Notting Hill, which is a fucking banger still. Yeah, massive decade for rom-coms. And I think we weren't, like our generation is by far the most cynical generation, and I still feel like in the 90s you could get away with some real cheesy lines said really sincerely. Like I noted a few famous quotes down, like in Jerry Maguire, when he's like, Tom Cruise is like standing there on the porch, like almost in tears, saying, "You complete me." And she's like, Renee is like, "You had me at hello." Or the speech. You've seen Notting Hill, right?
I haven't seen Notting Hill. It's one of the few that I haven't. Yeah.
Okay. There's a quote from that where she's like, "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy." Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that.
I'm familiar with that quote, absolutely.
Yeah, so I love that. I can go back and really enjoy. Alicia and I have been going back lately and watching a few of those old 90s rom-coms, and they really hold up, because I think that like it's just a simpler time where you can get away with being earnest, whereas now everything's got to be so based in reality, and if you're sincere like that, it's people just tear it apart. So anyway.
Well, yeah, I wasn't a rom-com guy for the longest time, and I still don't consider myself one, but I am finding more and more that I do like. We talked, I think, late last year, we were talking about kind of underrated gems. I mentioned Man Up, which is a wonderful rom-com, and The Big Sick I've harped on about again and again, like some solid rom-coms. So there's definitely, I think the problem I've had with the genre is that it's a genre with so much potential, but I think there were a lot of lazy writers at times, just like, we don't need to put too much effort into it. And like, no, put in the effort, make me cry, like do it. I'll do it if you put in the tears, I'll do it. Like, we should absolutely jump into your list. I'm very excited to hear what you've got to share with me today.
All right, my friend, you ready for me to go?
Number 5. What is number 5 on your 90s list? The most anticipated list, I would say, that we've had so far.
Yeah, so my number 5 is Seven.
Yes. What a goddamn masterpiece.
Directed by David Fincher, starring Bradley Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's well known that Kevin Spacey stars in this film. Spoiler alert, Kevin Spacey's in this film.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty well known. If you don't know it, look, it's a 30-year-old movie. I was going to say it's a 30-year-old movie. Like, at this point, if you don't know, like, that'd be like spoiling who Kaiser Soze is.
Yeah. You know what I should have... In fact, what I'll try and do is I will give you like a clue from each movie, and then I'll see if you can get it. I think you'll be able to get it from most of them. And I think if I was going to do one for Seven, I would have gone Detective.
I don't know if I would have got that, but yeah, I do. I actually just rewatched this flick late last year. I think it was in November. I was like, I'm pulling some of my all-time favorites to watch in my birthday month, and Seven was one. And it was insane how well it held up. I could not believe how well it held up.
What a masterpiece! Like so dark, so dark. Like I'm a real sucker for like. I think it's why I love the new Batman film we got last year, which is like, give me a grimy city that rains all the time, and that's all the ingredients you need to get me there.
Well, I don't know if it was you I was speaking to about this on the show, but I said someone once presented to me that Seven is a Batman film where Morgan Freeman plays Batman and Brad Pitt is like the new Robin or whatever. I was like, oh my god, like that's exactly what this is.
Yeah,
like because he's enthusiastic, he's gung ho, he like walks through doors before checking and stuff. and clearly, like the Riddler's at work in this movie. Like,
Yes. But such a chilling concept. So for those that don't know, that there's a serial killer on the loose, and his victims are themed to the 7 deadly sins.
mhm.
And Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt are playing the detectives that are sort of chasing him down. And we're happy to talk about the ending here. I'll give you the final say on that.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about it against a 30-year-old film. Like, I'll be honest, at this point, I rewatched it last year. As I said, first time in over a decade I'd seen the film, and I knew all the main beats. Did not affect my enjoyment of the film whatsoever. It is such a masterclass in a thriller.
Oh yeah, just it's a symphony the way it all comes together. Like,
it's
so
probably still, in my opinion, Fincher's best film. Like, I love Fincher. Like, he hasn't really made a bad movie, in my opinion. Like, I love Panic Room. I love Fight Club. I love Gone Girl. I've got a soft spot for Alien 3. Like, it's got its problems, but I do like that. I don't mind that film. I'm sure I'm missing some Fincher. Oh, The Game.
Yeah, the Game. Zodiac would probably be right up there for me.
I would say Zodiac is on par, and this film feels very much like Zodiac. Like they are as close to catching John Doe as the people hunting the Zodiac killer were.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a symphony the way everything comes together at the end. So the last sin is envy, which the killer himself is guilty of. So he's the final victim.
Well, actually, to spoil it, there's actually one more sin after envy.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Which will explain once you explain the envy part, then I can tell you what the last sin is, and you're like, oh yeah, of course.
Is it losing one's head?
It's wrath, because Brad Pitt has to commit the final sin.
Oh yeah, geez. How did I not put that together? That's amazing, man. That's a good insight.
Well, I just rewatched it, so I remember. Yeah. I'll take some credit, but not much.
Yeah, but I think also we've got a very re-memeable line. I mean, how many millions of times have people said, "What's in the box?"
Yeah, what's in the box? What's in the box?
And also, great young Brad Pitt performance.
I'll be honest, like we're talking about like 90s stars and stuff just before, and Brad Pitt was always someone on my mind, and I'd always written him off when I was young. I'm like, oh, he's just a pretty boy. I can't tell you a single Brad Pitt performance I don't like. Like, the guy is consistently great. Like, everything I've seen him in, I love. Like, Ocean's 11, great. Fight Club, great. Inglourious Bastards, great. Like, the guy, Burn After Reading, fantastic.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's a Coen Brothers film, really, really fun. And he's great in it. But yeah, so I agree, it's a great performance. But I also would go to say that I haven't really seen him put in a bad performance. Bullet Train, great. Like,
yeah, I haven't seen that. Although it got panned, right? But to me, it just looked like
it's fun.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, no, Sevens is brilliant. The sin that stuck with me the most when I was younger, I think the first time I watched Seven, I was maybe 17. I was a little bit younger than I probably should have been to watch it, but I worked in a video store and had access to everything.
Yeah. It was I remember, like, this was obviously not a film I watched in like 1995 or whenever it came out. Like, I would have been like 6 or something like that. But like,
it was mid 2000s for me.
Yeah, that's and I just remember being so dark. Like, I just remember, like, I reckon my first memory of this film was like is it greed or gluttony or whatever? When he makes
Gluttony,
that guy
gluttony,
eat himself to death, and it's like, oh my god, I just vividly remember that crime scene. And
the one that stuck with me the most is one you don't even see, and it's Lust. Like, all they do is show you the tool he uses, and like that is enough. Like, that is theater of the mind. And like, even now thinking about it, I'm like, like, it's so, like, it was as effective a couple of months ago as it was 10, 15 years ago when I watched it the first time. Like, it. Yeah.
And I think the decision not to show the box, perfect.
Yeah. It is a strong opener. Like, I can tell you now, Seven is not on my top 5 of the 1990s, but it was a close contender. It's a solid flick.
All right. Well,
I am very interested to hear where you go from there.
I'll give you a bit of a clue because, I'm not sure whether everyone knows this film as well as I do, but it's a little lighter than previous entry. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Oh, I do know this, but I would not be able to tell you for the life of me.
It's Rush Hour.
Yes, yes.
Rush Hour, which was
Yeah.
a real late entry. I'm pretty sure, I forgot to write this down, but I'm pretty sure it's either 98 or 99. So it's a real late entry to get in there. Directed by Brett Ratner and obviously starring Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. I still watch the Rush Hour 1 and 2 religiously. Like, I probably watch them every couple of years.
Mhm.
And they just stand up so well. Have you seen both of them?
I've seen them both like once. I remember it was a film that my dad would keep hiring from the video. So I was like, we're going to watch Rush Hour. It's going to be great. And it was one of those ones that always stayed at the bottom of the pile. We never got to it and always had to return without watching. But then randomly, we did watch them on TV once. And then years later, we saw Rush Hour 3 in cinemas, which I felt like went for about an hour. Oh, this was like a really short movie. I was probably more familiar with. I think I was probably more familiar with Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights. Which I don't know if that'll come on your list, but that was the Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson, cowboy movies.
No, I know them well. No, weirdly, I do know them well.
Jackie Chan throughout the 90s and early 2000s, when he went to like his comedy phase, was like prime Jackie Chan for me. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen The Tuxedo, and still quote it to this day. Like, all I have to do is send my brother a text message saying Dr. Angelo was on holiday, and like I will get the exact next line responded within 5 minutes.
Who is that? Jennifer Love Hewitt in that?
It is. Who is underrated? Like, she's pretty fun in that film.
I remember that film. But no, Rush Hour to me is the buddy cop comedy perfected. Like, it's peak to me. I just do not think it gets any better than this. You could trace its lineage back to like 48 Hours.
Yep.
It was just an 80s film with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte, which really doesn't stand up very well today.
Cape Fear's Nick Nolte.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cape Fear's own Nick Nolte.
And Beverly Hills Cop, Edward Murphy.
But Rush Hour,
joke.
basically, like a Chinese ambassador's daughter is kidnapped by the Yakuza or the Chinese triads. I think they are. It wouldn't be Yakuza because that's Japanese. Yeah, triads. And in America. And so Chris Tucker gets put on the case and Jackie Chan comes over from Hong Kong to assist with the investigation. And there's obviously the cultural differences and the sort of comedy ensues. And then they obviously get their shit together for the finale to rescue the girl. It's just so funny. Like, Jackie Chan was probably my favorite movie star for like 3 years there.
I will say this: like, there's been another Chris Tucker film that's come up a lot in the 90s, and that is The Fifth Element, which is a brilliant film, and it may come up later. I'm not sure, but this Rush Hour is definitely my preferred Chris Tucker performance between those two films. So
between him and Rudy Rod or whatever.
Every single time Fifth Element comes, I said, "Look, I like that film," but geez, like Chris Tucker, like, was eating all of the scenery, like just chewing it up. So I don't have much to say on Rush Hour, unfortunately, because I have seen it, but just not enough to reflect on accurately.
Yeah, and cracking sequel, Rush Hour 2, equally as good.
Which is the one where he's dancing as a traffic cop? Is that number 3 or is that number 2?
Yeah, I think that is 3.
Yeah.
But 3, I don't count. 3 is the same as like the third Mummy film with Brendan Fraser. Like, I just don't count that as canon.
Yeah, sure.
Ignore its existence.
I've never seen the third Mummy film either.
Yeah. Well, they lost Rachel Weisz, and I think Jet Li was like the Chinese Emperor, a Chinese mummy.
He was the Dragon Emperor himself, I believe. I didn't watch those Mummy films, those first two, until I was almost 30, and I could not believe how well they held up and how great they were. And now he's back.
Great, aren't they?
BF is back, and he's taken names.
His absence, was that like a self-inflicted absence from the scene? He had some mental health battles, didn't he?
I think so, and I think he was looking after his kids maybe, but I think he just kind of faded into obscurity for a while. But
Yeah.
like my favorite thing at the moment, which is not like this is not like a thing that no one else is doing, like everyone's doing it. My favorite thing at the moment is to just look up current interviews with Brendan Fraser and just seeing how happy he is.
Yeah.
Like, because everyone missed him. It's like, oh my God, it's like, I can't believe that people wanted me back. I'm so happy that people wanted me back. I'm just so happy to be here. Like, everyone's so lovely. And he just always crying with happiness. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, he's
Like,
a real positive dude. Yeah, I like him.
I
You know
saw,
what I like about him is like, oh, sorry.
Go on, sorry. No, go.
No, I was just going to say, like, I haven't seen The Whale. That kind of looks like a real challenging character piece, but like, for the most part, his films are just like fun, you know?
Well,
like
I saw
Tarzan or George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle is, I haven't watched it in like 20, 30 years. I can definitely quote a lot of it. Like, I remember it very, very well. But that was he was Dudley Do-Right, he was the Mummy, was it Bedazzled? Which was early. Yeah, just a really fun actor. And I saw a photo recently where he showed up to a screening of the Mummy unannounced, and he rocked up in all the gear, like in this character.
Oh, that's awesome.
And people were like losing their mind. I'm really glad he's back. I know he's a bit older and he's probably a bit heavier and stuff, but like, if we want a Mummy sequel, like now's the time to do it. Like,
Yeah,
he's in.
Give him like 6 to 9 months. Get him like a personal chef and a trainer. They can get him into like an outfit.
Yeah, he will then be like one of the most handsome men in Hollywood yet again. Like, and he's great in Doom Patrol. I haven't watched the latest 2 seasons. I watched the first 2 seasons, but he's so good in Doom Patrol. No, we got sidetracked to talk about Brendan Fraser, but Rush Hour is a solid pick and a very Nick Owen pick. Like, that doesn't surprise me. It's on there.
Yeah. All right, you ready to move up to number 3?
Let's get to numero tres.
I think what my clue is going to be. I could give you an obvious one, but I think you know this film quite well, so I'm going to just like think for a second. Use pad, James.
Sorry?
Use pad. Talk about something.
Oh, okay. I thought you just that was the quote, like use pad. I'm like, what's use pad? The problem is that I just did all my Brendan Fraser material, so now I've run out of things to say. I am very excited about the 90s. Like, some of the stuff that I've like, some of the films we talked about, some of the films on my list, like, I think there'll be a couple of films who are expecting me to talk about, but I keep referring to the 90s as the decade of the letter M, because you get The Mummy, The Matrix, Men in Black. Like, there's so many like M franchises. And so many great actors. Like, I talked about Nick Cage before, and obviously Brendan Fraser, but we get Will Smith really coming into his own. We get Leo DiCaprio starting his career. Keanu Reeves really picking up. Like, there's some like I keep wanting to say John McClane, but his name is Bruce Willis. But it was the decade of Die Hard. We had a couple of those in there. Like, it's a very very fun decade. Did you find your clue?
No, I couldn't find like a quote, so I'll just have to sing my clue to you, which was, "Here I am, stuck in the middle with you."
Oh, Reservoir Dogs.
It is Reservoir Dogs. Good get.
Yeah, I wonder how I got that. Solid flick. One of 3 Tarantino films from the 90s, and I can't imagine the rest of your list is just Tarantino films.
No, so I was thinking about that. Like, okay, I was thinking about why is it not Pulp Fiction? Why is it not Jackie Brown? Jackie Brown's classic.
Rewatched it the other night, holds up insanely well.
Classic De Niro, by the way.
Yeah, which apparently he was not a fan of working on that movie, but I learned recently.
Yeah, okay. I'll be interested to hear more about that, actually. But to me, Jackie Brown sits in just a tier below Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. And Pulp Fiction, while I love so much about that film, I just can't deal with the Bruce Willis part of it. It just slows the film down. I don't know why. But I can't put a film in my top 5 that I skip. I feel like skipping like 20 minutes. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because I used to feel that way as well. Like, that's when I would get sleepy and I'd have to watch the rest the next day. But this time around, I was really engaged in the Bruce Willis part. It was the most I've enjoyed that part of the. Look, the best part of Pulp Fiction is clearly the Vince Vega Mia story. Like, that's the best story. Like the whole Jackrabbit Slim, syringe in the heart, like all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Like that's the most fun. Like, and obviously like Jules and Vince is pretty fun as well. Pulp Fiction quite problematic these days. Like Quentin Tarantino wrote himself a character who just throws around the N word constantly.
Yeah.
Which I never had, not that I didn't have a problem with it earlier, but when I was younger, I just didn't understand the impact of it. But as a guy in my mid 30s, I'm like, oh, that's interesting that for your second film that you're writing, for your career, like you've written yourself a character and he's going to be. I don't even know if he's intentionally racist. I think he just uses the word because he thinks it's cool that he can use the word. Like I don't look at the character of Jimmy and be like, oh well, like he's a racist. Like there's this clan hood stuff like that. Like he just throws the word around and thinks he can use it the way that everyone that other people do. And I'm like, nope, that's not cool. But that aside, like still a solid flick.
Oh, amazing film. That's it. It's an honorable mention. It just didn't crack my top 5. But yeah, Reservoir Dogs.
Nothing will ever beat Kill Bill for me. Like Kill Bill is just genius, and Inglourious Basterds. But yes,
that's how I feel about Inglourious. Inglourious is like, I started watching it. I just had about 20 minutes to kill the other day, and I was at Alicia's, and I was just flicking through the apps that she does have on her TV, and I was just flicking through, and I'm like, oh, Inglourious Basterds. That's cool. I've only got 20 minutes. That'll do me. I'll just watch that opening scene. And
good luck watching only 20 minutes of Inglourious Basterds. Like,
yeah, it is just perfection. Anyway, that would be my number 1 QT film, just in case you're wondering.
I remember it came up on your top 5 of all time, if I remember correctly. But and we may end up discussing Inglourious Basterds at another day. I'm not sure. I feel like it's going to come up again.
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs. I keep taking you away from your movie of the 90s.
To me, I feel about this movie the same way I feel about Nirvana, which is that I love them as a band. But what I mean there is like sometimes just like there's a moment where a single piece of like art or culture like this just cuts through everything else. And I just think I obviously like this came out in the very early 90s. So of course I wasn't sort of around to really experience it just then, but like just and it's obviously a low budget film, but just like the dialogue I hadn't really now I look back on it, you're like, wow, the dialogue is just so different to everything else out there. And just like an opening shot of just like a camera going around a table of just people just shooting the shit, talking about tipping, which was the clue I was trying to find for you, by the way.
Yeah.
Trying to get a quote about tipping.
It's just it's very snappy, very real. Like the dialogue is stylized, but also very natural at the same time, which I know is a bit of an oxymoron. Like you can't really have natural stylized dialogue, yet they somehow make it work in that movie. Great cast.
Amazing cast. Tim Roth, who I've really seen Tim Roth in much ever since then. I don't know if his career peaked then, and
he's been in stuff. He's our Abomination in the Incredible Hulk and She-Hulk. He was also in the Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight, by the way, which is just a 1700s remake of Reservoir Dogs. Like it literally is Reservoir Dogs. Like that's what that movie is, which I'm fine with, by the way. Hateful Eight's wonderful. He's been in a lot of stuff, but just not stuff that's like he hasn't. I don't think he headlined a lot of things. He's done a lot of character work. He was in that show Lie to Me. I never watched that, but
that's where I know him. Yeah, yep. No, and also Tin Star or something like that.
That sounds about right. But he's wonderful, and like he's so. And obviously Pulp Fiction he showed up in as well. He's Honey Bunny or whatever. No, the other guy. I can't remember what the name is, even though I watched it the other night. But he's so good in Reservoir Dogs, and the older I get, the more emotional that film is for me because it's pretty like gritty and hard hitting, and just like we're all bad guys and we're gonna like have a shootout and we don't trust each other. But that ending, like this time around, I was like, oh my god, this is really heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal that the way that film, like I think great choice, probably due to a budget. Great choice not showing the robbery. We just really see, who do we see? We see Mr. Pink, played by Steve Buscemi, running.
Who is doing like some of his best work. Like, and he's a guy who's consistently great, but like his performance in Mr. Pink is solid.
And Harvey Keitel and Tim Roth escape in a car, and it's just the whole thing is just gone to shit. And obviously, for those that may not be aware, spoiler alert, Tim Roth, I think his color's orange. I think he's Mr. Orange.
Tim Roth is orange. Harvey Keitel's white. Mr. White. Michael Madsen is Mr. Blonde, and he is fantastic. He is like, if there's one
scary
person, and like you can't help but watch whatever he's about to do next. He is like, if you like, I describe books as unputdownable. He's non-watchable. Like, like everything he does, and like he's like that in so many of his films. Like even like looking, years later at Kill Bill, like he's so good in it. But Mr. Blonde is just a force to be reckoned with, and like so sinister and like mean-spirited. Like, and he just gets such joy out of causing pain and
What does he say to the cop? He's like, you can scream and you can tell me anything. He's like, I've heard it all before. It doesn't matter, and it won't make me stop, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's so scary, but yeah. And then I'm not sure how I feel about the exact ending, the sort of three-way shootout, but the Mr. Orange kind of like rousing himself to shoot Mr. Blonde before he's going to kill the cop is that's a great moment. Quentin Tarantino. What an incredible first film. Like I can't think of many better films for someone's first film.
It's great. It's, and what else can be said? Like it's not even that there's anything that's necessarily anything new. Like we'd seen Scorsese do crime dramas before, but I think it's the combination of the non-linear storytelling, which was again like not a foreign concept, but not seen commonly. You've got non-linear storytelling. You've got the whole heist without a heist movie. You got that quippy, snappy, like more grounded dialogue, and then something that Tarantino does very, very well is it's just great characters. Like none of them particularly good people. Like even Tim Roth, like isn't exactly a good character. Like he's done some pretty bad stuff, and he's a lot of people have died on his watch just because he's trying to protect himself. But like they're all interesting. They've all got depth and layers. And there's not a weak performance in the bunch. Like Steve Buscemi and Michael Madsen are the highlights for me because their characters have a lot more to do. Whereas Harvey Keitel kind of has to be like a father figure in a way, and Tim Roth has to be bleeding out to death and scared. But like everyone's wonderful in it. Like even the cop who's getting his ear cut off. Like it's
he's very convincing as a terrified person.
It's
as
not
you would be, I think.
Not a large role, but like the wrong person, and that could have tanked that scene. Like, it's a great flick, and it makes sense. Like looking back, of the three that he did in the '90s, that makes the most sense to me. Although there is someone or one or two people that also do throw out some slurs in that film as well. Like, it's very much on Tarantino's radar early on. Well, I say early on, like. It was up until Hateful. I don't know if there are any in Once Upon a Time in New York, in Hollywood, but definitely in Hateful Eight and Django there are. So it's just always been very free with that word. So,
well, would you like to know who number 2 works for?
I was going to ask you who does number 2 work for. If it's not Austin Powers, that would seem like a real missed opportunity.
God damn it!
Is it Austin Powers?
No, it's not. I'm just trying to think of a clue that you would get. I just don't think. I can't remember if we've talked about this film, so I just don't think there's a clue you would get.
That's okay.
So the film is Heat.
It's I wouldn't necessarily be able to think of I've only seen Heat once, which is a wonderful movie, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to pick I guess you could do like a really rough Pacino impression.
So it would have all been Pacino, and it would have been something like, "I'm sorry if the chicken got overcooked." Which is something he says to his wife. So Heat, directed by Michael Mann, just one of my absolute favorite films ever. And a film I only like. I've talked about Michael Mann a lot on previous episodes.
Manhunter, which I saw is finally back in stock internationally, so I may have to try try my luck and see if it, because I ordered it once before and it got lost in the post.
Just the anticipation is building. You will love that. He's just one of my favorite directors, favorite filmmakers, and I think this is his crowning achievement. Really, this Heat is just a phenomenal film, a heist movie starring, and I think it's the heist movie. I think when you look at films that are, there's only like Heat, and then from that it's like people kind of doing their version of Heat, like The Town, directed by Ben Affleck, is like Heat in Boston.
Yeah.
Den of Thieves is like Heat that's both Heat's in LA as well. And it's starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, and like a million other people that are really well known.
And this is the first time Pacino and De Niro share scene together. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, really good pickup. So they're both in Godfather Part 2, but Robert De Niro is playing a young Vito.
He's playing
that.
Al's dad.
Yeah, so they don't.
I don't think it was ever referred to as that before. Like he's like Al's dad.
And I think like what sets this apart from just like every other kind of heist movie, I think like Michael Mann's like dedication to like realism and the experience that then gives you, like this is a film that I just wish it came out in 95. I wish I was around to see it in the cinema. I wish they did a re-release, because like even at home, like the sound of like the machine gun fire when they do the bank heist, or the truck smashing into the what do you call like those little vans they pick up cash in? I can't think of them.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name either, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like the security van or whatever. Like it's just like it's incredible.
I guarantee you, like if you do the research, there'll be a cinema that's doing it, whether it's like Cinema Nova or the Astor. Like the Astor does like a they kind of, I don't know if they still do it, but like a few years ago they would release like, hey, here's our summer schedule, and it was like Back to the Future, and so I guarantee there's someone doing Heat, or like Cinemaniacs. They're like a Melbourne-based film group. They're tied in with Acme. They do some pretty cool screenings. So I bet you there's someone in the state that's doing it at some point.
I dearly love that, and I'd love to take you as well, because I feel like if you've seen it, how long ago did you see it?
Would have been no more than 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, so you have seen it quite recently, but yeah.
But like I've watched over 1,000 movies in the last 5 years, so like I remember enjoying it, but I couldn't tell you much about it. I remember, I think most the image that's most clear, aside from the restaurant scene, which is when that big scene where Al and Robbie D get to spend some time together, is I think there's like this. I think Val Kilmer's outside the window and it's nighttime and they're worried about a drive-by or something. That's vaguely what I remember. Those are the two scenes I remember most.
Yeah. So you're catching like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro at these like phenomenal points. So like Robert De Niro is probably still like at the top of the tree in terms of actors, and he's giving this really subtle performance, playing Neil McCauley, and he's like this real, basically the archetype of a Michael Mann character, like the same as like Tom Cruise in Collateral. It's just this guy who's a real like low-key professional person at their craft. So he's this bank robber, but just like basically it's his profession. And you're also catching Al Pacino, who's like looks a little strung out. I think it's since come out that like they deleted a lot of the scenes, but apparently his character is supposed to be a cocaine addict throughout the movie, and it really makes sense knowing that like his character is really like, it's pretty funny. Like some of the lines he comes out with.
Is this the one where it's like, your wife, she's got a great ass? Is that this movie?
Yeah, so Hank Azaria, I think that's his name, the guy from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I don't know why I got involved with her. And he goes, because she's got a great ass and you got your head all the way up it, is what he says. But I digress. just phenomenal film. It's one I came to quite late. Like I reckon I watched it for the first time only a few years ago, and it's now like it's almost an annual rewatch for me.
I've definitely got to give it a go. Like, I definitely need to check it out. Okay, so I'm not even kidding. I just was looking it up while we were talking. It's the 25th anniversary. Is that right? 25th anniversary? No, that can't be right.
No, that can't be right because I think it came out in '95.
There is literally a session. What's today's date?
21st.
Okay, there's literally they're showing session times of Heat in the city from the 23rd of February to the 1st of March.
Oh, can you send me that link?
Yeah, like absolutely. Is that right?
Oh my god.
Wait, is that right or am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. Hang on. We
Wait.
shouldn't do this on the podcast, but I could have sworn I saw the Heat. Hot Fuzz is showing. Oh my god.
What cinema is this?
Nova. Maybe it's under coming soon.
Heat.
They're playing The Fifth Element again. No,
That'd be pretty cool.
I must be wrong. I thought
I'm on that same page now. I can see the 20 show times.
I mean, we're getting very distracted, but I was looking it up because I'm like, maybe they'll do Heat soon. But
Session times, Feb 16 to 22, 2023. Session times.
it'd be worth looking into further. But it looked like I don't know whether that was like an old screening, and then they just went to the modern, the current session times. But yeah, look into that and see if Heat's playing because we can definitely go and see Heat.
Do you reckon like Cinema Nova can you call them and be like, hey, I want to come in and see Heat. Can you put it on?
I saw it because I was looking at the Astra as well, and at the end of the month, the Astra doing a double feature of Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I went to the Astra to see Hateful Eight because they did like the big 170mm screening with like the intermission and the curtains and stuff. It was really cool.
That is really cool.
All right, that was a little intermission. We got a bit distracted by potentially watching Heat in cinemas.
The last time I was at Cinema Nova was you were there.
The Room,
and there was a lot of spoons involved.
I was thinking about The Room recently because I saw The Room before I met you, but when I met you very early on, like we were talking about films, and The Room came up, and you were a fan as well, so we kept trying to go and see it. And I used to go and see The Room, like most people, ironically, like like it's the worst film ever made. But I'll be honest, the more I watch that film, the more I really enjoy that film.
Yeah.
And also, like I look back, I'm like, everyone makes fun of Tommy Wiseau, but like, didn't he get everything he hoped for? Like, he made his own movie. It went to it's had more longevity in theaters than any other movie I can think of outside of maybe the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
Like he has fans. Like he's lived off this film. Like, people make fun of it, but like it's like that film turns 20 this year. And people are still watching it and like going to screenings of it regularly. So I think he kind of won there.
And it really does, like, maybe he's a genius because it really does bring into question is like, what is art? And like, can something that's like made like to be that, like, obviously he was intending it for it to be a masterpiece, but like, can you get, like, I've had more enjoyment out of quote unquote a bad film than I have for a lot of good films,
I've watched The Room more than I've watched The Godfather, and I love The Godfather. But so we have to do an episode on The Room at some point. Like we'll have to do it. Whether we do like a watch party or like a breakdown or like a commentary or something, like we have to talk. I remember Josh early on, he was like, "Hey, when are you going to do an episode in The Room? Because I want to be there." But I think it's a film that everyone will want to be in. It's just such a fun film. Another film not quite as enjoyable as The Room, but definitely on the same page as Birdemic, which is
yes, I have seen it.
But again, like same thing. Like I watched that film ironically the first time, but I'm like, you know what? Didn't he kind of do exactly what he wanted to do? And like there are fans of that. Like I don't know, it connected with people for some reason. But The Room is genius. We should definitely talk about your number one film. I have no idea what it's going to be.
Okay, well, you might say that my number one film was Inevitable, Mr. James Anderson.
Oh, of course. When you said inevitable, I was like, Thanos Endgame. I'm like, that's like that came out a couple of years ago. Um, it
The
had to be,
Matrix,
yeah, it had to be the Matrix.
1999, another late entry. Again, one of my favorite movies. Holds up today. I think,
It
like,
really does.
has there been a more high concept become like a blockbuster film? Like, I really can't think there is. This is like The Matrix is hard sci-fi.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, not until Nolan entered the scene had there been anything as like it was the most complex thing for the longest time. I
Mm,
would argue that something like Interstellar is probably a bit more complex than the Matrix, but gee, like it's a perfect blend of action and science fiction. It's absolutely a product of its time, but because of the concept, it's timeless.
yes,
Like it,
agreed.
um, the action scenes are fantastic. It introduced everyone to bullet time, which then got overused throughout the 2000s, but like it still does it the best of all the movies. Um, it has like some of the most unintentionally funny moments in it. Like one of my favorite moments in The Matrix, and we're jumping all over the place, is when Morpheus is running out of the building at the end and he gets shot in the leg and he trips.
Yeah.
Like unintentionally hilarious. The throat punch that
Oh yeah,
he
where he
does.
just opens his hand, goes.
Yeah, I would every time we watch that movie, I'll remember it and I'll go through a phase where I'm doing that to Tina whenever she comes out of a room. I'm just like, oh, by the way.
But like, just the concept that, like, it is such a genius concept that, like, we're batteries for AI, but we would reject that. So they've created a false reality for us.
mm,
Like, it's like haunting and it's spooky because people, it's like, there's no way to prove that's not happening right now.
yeah, it and that scene where it's explained, where Morpheus like loads up the program.
Yeah.
Um, maybe one of my favorite monologues in any film of all time. Just like turning the human brain into
Into
this.
this.
Um,
Good branding for Duracell getting in on that one right there.
like just the idea that you can load a training montage in your mind, like
I used
that
to
the
I
kung
used to want
fu
to
scene.
live in that dojo. Like, I wanted that to be my room
It's
when I was a
so
kid.
it's so good. Like that's such a great scene. Um, there is not a bad scene in the film. Cypher is the perfect traitor, like
Mm.
perfectly cast, but also his motivations are 100% understandable. Um, that's another thing I quote where he goes nothing. Like
Yeah.
that is what I quote quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of there's like so many quotes. Like,
Were you
if
paying attention to me, or were you looking at the woman in the red
yeah.
dress? Look again.
I quite often, if I'm ever eating a steak, I'll go, ignorance is bliss, which is a
Yeah,
classic
yes.
cipher reference. If whenever I see a black cat, I'll always say there's a glitch in the Matrix.
hmm Did you ever see? It was only released a couple of years ago. This is going on a tangent a bit, but there was a deleted scene of The Office release that didn't have been shown before, and they tried to trick Dwight that he was in the Matrix.
Nah, I don't think I have
Oh,
seen that.
okay. You've got to check out. Like Hank plays Morpheus. Like, it's so funny. It's so good. Like it's legitimately great. Um, it had a
Just
killer sound. Go on.
incredible action scenes, and probably should talk about Keanu Reeves at some point as well.
Keanu is brilliant, like really, really good in it. Like I know this was a kind of the era where people are like, oh, he's such a stiff actor, and maybe,
Mm.
and it's like, no, this is the first time he's done anything like this. Like prior to this, you got Bill and Ted, Point Break, and then he went on to do plenty of other things afterwards as well. Like that character is meant to be that way. Like it's designed that way. Um, the CGI is fantastic. It's so ambitious, and like most of it still holds up pretty well. The whole getting sucked in the mirror thing, and then like
Yeah,
going down the tube and like wow, like
yeah,
that. The jelly pods, like
yeah. And like, who? I don't know how they wrote such a complex villain who's also like a bit of who's like a computer program in Agent Smith. Just like on surface level, just this like Terminator who's just there to kill these people who are like what do they call them in the film? I don't know. The people who
Agents.
the people who live in the real world. I don't know what the agents refer to them as, but that's what they're there to do. Just there to kill them. And
Yeah.
but then he's like a program who wants to get out of the Matrix himself.
Like this is during like kind of peak Hugo Weaving like filmography. Like he's rocking Agent Smith and Elrond at the same time.
Yeah.
And I always thought that Elrond was a bad guy. I'm like, oh well, clearly like they've cast him because he's going to be like a traitor behind the scenes or something because he's so convincing as Agent Smith. Dodge this is a really good quote.
Oh fuck yes, Carrie Ann Moss. I loved her for about 5 years straight between. Like that 5-year period where Matrix films were coming out, she was very high on my list.
It was only, I guess it was 1999 to 2003, I think. Yeah, the soundtrack is brilliant. Like closing the movie out with Rage Against the Machine is like the perfect way to end it. All the actions, all the fight scenes, like that the whole like tower takedown where they go through and they've got the guns and like the Power Man 5000 track kicks in while they're doing like all flips and like throwing guns away.
I used to fast forward to that scene. Like I just used to watch that scene. Like it was so cool. And like I don't know, where do you stand on the sequels?
So as a kid, I thought Reloaded was fine and Revolutions was better because to me as a kid Reloaded was kind of like a bridge between the two movies. And then as I got older I flipped and I went 1, 2, 3. But I thought they were both kind of weak. But now that I've matured a bit more, I actually quite enjoy them. I think there's a lot to enjoy in both sequels. I haven't seen Revolutions in a number of years, but we watched 1 and 2, I think while Tina was pregnant. And I was shocked how much I enjoyed Reloaded. Like I remember not loving it that much, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Like you've got to remember that it was a film that was never meant to have a sequel. Like they can say it was a planned trilogy, but it absolutely wasn't. Like it was meant to be a one and done and would have been a perfect one and done. But they went back and they found a way to expand that world, introduce new characters, and I think tell a pretty round story, all things considered. And then obviously Revolutions came out only a couple of years ago, which I didn't mind. I haven't watched it since I saw it the year it came out. But I thought there was some good stuff in it. I was shocked how emotional I got when, spoilers, Neo and Trinity got back together because that was not that. If I have anything to criticize in the franchise is that I don't buy the romance. I think it kind of was wedged in just for the sake of, well, she needs to fall in love with him because she's going to fall in love with the one. So I guess they're going to be in love. But like in terms of, especially in that first movie, there's not a lot of kind of build up to that relationship. They just kind of say they love each other. And then I think one thing that Reloaded did very well was build on that relationship and like show like how into each other they were. But in Revolutions, I was shocked how happy I was when they got back together. I was like, oh my God, like they're back together, Trinity and Neo back together for the first time. What do you how do you feel about sequels?
No, I really like them. I think they get progressively weaker. Not to say that the third one is a weak film, but like I think I think maybe they could have spent a little bit of extra time just like wrapping it up. I'm not sure I enjoy how Smith, like the whole Smith part of it, where he just starts taking over the Matrix and like he replicates himself on everyone. But
I mean that rain fight is so good though. Like, all the Smith fights are great. Like the schoolyard fight where they're all like getting thrown around by Neo.
I love that. That's great. My only gripe with that scene is like, and it's just me being picky because it's a product of its time, but like the CGI is just not quite there yet, so you can tell it gets a bit cartoony.
Yeah, but I don't mind. Like, and again, like the way I justify it is, I'm like, well, they're in a computer, so like it's not going to be perfect. Like it's because it's a product of its time and the nature of the film. I can justify it to like, well, they're in a computer, so like maybe it's just rendering. Like that's kind of how I kind of excuse it.
But yeah, no, love it as it's one of those. Like I feel like right now we're building franchises, and so films you might get trilogies within a franchise. So like the Captain America trilogy or Iron Man trilogy, but there's some really great like from the 90s, and I guess that extends into the 2000s, like really rewatchable trilogies of films, and like The Matrix is one. Like you've got like the Bourne trilogy, Mummy, maybe not so much. The third one's not that great, but yeah, no, great film, best film of the 90s.
Yeah, it really is. Like it changed everything. Like that movie changed everything. From a technological standpoint, from an action standpoint, like I would say up until the release of the Matrix, there were no better fight scenes in a movie. Like that movie to me has the best fight scenes. Like I always, if you go back to like those 80s ones, of course it's very different because the technology wasn't there. But like you can tell the difference between the actor and the stunt man. You can see like my favorite like blooper in an 80s film was in Lethal Weapon. And that's when Riggs goes to the top with the jumper and the guy wants to jump. And Riggs is like, come on, I'll jump with you. And they handcuff themselves together and they jump. And they're meant to be handcuffed, but then when it cuts to them falling, they're clearly like a meter away from each other. Their arms aren't even connected. Like you just couldn't do that sort of stuff in that time. But like it's so different. It's so visceral. It's so realistic. Like the fight scenes are just, they spent the time. There might be some like old Jackie Chan kung fu films, or like even some old Shaw Brothers films from the 70s and 80s, which I haven't seen, that might have fights on par with it and would have certainly inspired The Matrix. But for my money, in terms of Hollywood films, like there is no fight scene in any film that can match with The Matrix. Like it redefined how we do fight scenes. Like it would have inspired things like the raids down the line. And
but I think it's such a great point. And I think as well, like at the same time, not dumbing down, not talking down to the audience. It's high concept. It's like it trusts the audience to like, even if you don't pick up and The Matrix, you will not pick up everything the first time you watch it. I've probably seen all of them like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times now, and like you'd still like, particularly in the second one when he goes in to see the architect. I was like, even to this day, I'm like, oh, is that what he's talking about? Like, it's just so complex, but they don't talk down to the audience, and I really appreciate that about that film.
Yeah, they really like bet on themselves, because I don't know if you know the story behind The Matrix, but they came to Warner Brothers like, hey, we want to make this film. And they were like, well, this is pretty advanced. You've never made a movie before, so you have to make something else first. And so they made Bound with Jennifer Tilly, which I think is like a lesbian crime drama. And then the studio were like, all right, good enough. Now you can make The Matrix. But like, it was so high. Like, I think if I remember correctly, Will Smith auditioned for it, but he didn't quite understand the script. So he was like, look, this seems cool, but I don't really get it, so I'm going to pass. And then it went to to Keanu, which I think Keanu was the right choice. I think Will Smith's kind of brand and the way he performs like could have been very like Agent J. Like we might have gotten like a little bit too much kind of like quipping and kind of going for laughs, which is very much on brand for him, but would have been totally wrong for the film.
I'm not sure how Will Smith plays a character who is like quite uncertain of themselves and their abilities.
Yeah.
Which is pretty integral to the first like 3/4 of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we haven't talked about, and I know we've got to wrap things up in a moment, and we've been talking about this one for a while, but that train station sequence at the end, like that's maybe the best fight scene. Like just like exchanging punches. That's when you get as I mentioned, the throat jab, which is my favorite movement. But just like them like destroying like tiled walls in a cinema, like in a station, like getting thrown back to back. But even like rats in the wall, when they're in the hotel, like this like every scene to me is iconic. It's just solid flick.
So good. So it's a perfect film. Perfect.
It really is. It's great.
Now I thought I've got about 1 million honorable mentions.
Churn through them. We'll rattle them off. We don't have to talk about them. We just rattle them off, and I'll just respond positively. I'm like, yeah, good one.
All right, let's do it. Con Air.
Yes.
Face Off.
Yeah. See, I'm responding positively. Great film.
The Rock.
Yep.
Pulp Fiction.
Great film.
Jackie Brown.
Yes.
Mission Impossible.
Flick that came up recently, and I haven't seen it in a long, long time. But the only thing I remember from that film were two scenes. the laser scene and old mate getting spiked in the face by an elevator shaft. It made me terrified of elevators for the rest of my life.
Emilio Estevez, that is.
Oh, really? The Mighty
Yeah.
Duck.
Sleepless in Seattle. Oh, great Tom Hanks decade. Shawshank Redemption.
Great film.
Total Recall.
Yes.
Happy Gilmore.
Yep. Yes. Oh, so good.
Talented Mr. Ripley.
Watched it for the first time last year. Fell in love with that film. So strong.
True Lies.
Yep. I'm shocked that wasn't on your top 5 because I know how much you love True Lies.
Yeah, it's. So if we had done this tomorrow, it might have been Last of the Mohicans, another Michael Mann classic.
That's DDL.
Yep. Lock, Stock.
Yep.
Home Alone, and I'll also just add Home Alone 2 to that.
Lost in New York is brilliant.
Gump.
Forrest Gump. Bubba Gump.
Castaway, which again just made it in. I think that was 99.
Yep. I thought it was 2001, but I think you're right. I think it is 99.
Jerry Maguire.
Big Tom Cruise decade as well.
Oh, yep. And hold that in mind because I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you after the 80s pod. Ace Ventura.
Yep.
Liar, Liar. Notting Hill. Titanic. T2.
Yeah.
Toy Story. Three Amigos. Cruel Intentions.
I know you love Three Amigos. And it's the beginning of Pixar that decade as well. You get Toy Story 1 and 2. You get Bugs Life, which I rewatched recently, Bugs Life, and it holds up insanely well.
Cruel Intentions. And my final one was a film I don't believe many people will have seen, but it's like I just love it to death. Is a film called Romeo Must Die, and it's a Jet Li film.
Yeah,
and Anthony Anderson and Aaliyah.
I've never seen it, but that was a film that was a very highly rented one when I worked in the video store. That one.
Yeah.
So
the question I was going to ask you, same question I asked you after the 80s one, is question without notice. Who won the 90s?
I mean,
and we can shortlist it. We can work it together and shortlist it.
Yeah, I think Julia Roberts has to be up there. Like, that's her breakout. Like, I know she did some stuff in the 80s, but the 90s is where she really broke out, took control. I think she's got to be up there. I think Will Smith has to be up there. Like, he really, Independence Day, obviously.
Independence Day. Oh, my God. How did I leave? I should have added. I just obviously forgot about Will Smith's existence, but Independence Day and Men in Black.
Yeah. So I think Will Smith's up there. I think Tom Cruise will be up there to an extent. Like he did some really great work in there.
You got Mission Impossibles. You got Jerry Maguire.
But there's only one Mission Impossible in the 90s.
Is 2 not?
I think it's 2001.
Oh, okay.
I think. But
you're probably right. But you've got like
A Few Good Men,
The Firm, and A Few Good Men.
And he's born on the 4th of July. Is that 80s or 90s?
Or it'd be right on the cusp. I don't know. Don't know. I would also add to that. So you've got Julia, you've got Tom Cruise,
You got Will
Smith. I reckon like Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
I mean, he won like 2 Oscars in a row.
In that decade, you get him in Gump. You get him in
Philadelphia.
Is he in Saving Private? No,
Saving Private Ryan's 99.
Green Mile, I think, is 2000s.
Yeah.
You get
Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah, you get a lot of Hanks.
You've got Mail. Yep. I would also argue Meg Ryan. She became like the queen of rom-com.
Yeah, that's kind of the last time she really shone as well. Like after the 90s, she kind of was in a lot less work.
And I'd also say you could argue Quentin Tarantino because he has 3 classic films in the 90s.
Absolutely, and redefined the art form. Like cinema.
My short list, and I'll let you choose because you're the host. My short list was Julia, Hanks, and Quentin Tarantino.
I think in terms of like variety, like QT's got to be up there, but I think we've giving a lot of men the win, so let's give it to Julia because Julia really did.
Very fitting winner. Like she was the biggest star on the planet from probably like what 9? When was Pretty Woman? Was that like 90?
I can't remember. I still haven't seen Pretty Woman. It's a film that I just have never got around to.
Yeah, she's like, I would say like at least 9 out of the 10 years of the 90s, she was the biggest star on the planet. So
definitely, and then proceeded, up until I would say, comfortably until maybe the mid 2000s, and again, like this was at a time. She's still working. Like, it's not like she hasn't done movies, but this was a time, unfortunately, in cinema where like women were considered to have an expiry date, like especially like in the 90s and continue on to the 2000s. Like these days, it's different. Like I'm not saying there's not inequality in Hollywood. Of course there is, but it does seem like people aren't actors, in particular women, aren't given like oh, well, she's not in her 30s anymore, then don't give her a film unless she's a grandma. Like we're not seeing that so much anymore. We are seeing a shift in the right direction, which is good. But Julia Roberts was in a time where they were given a bit of an expiry date, which was unfortunate, but she's still doing stuff. I would even say, although she's probably more of a 2000s one, but I would say late 90s we get the introduction of Angelina Jolie as well. But 2000s is definitely more her decade.
Yeah.
I think Girl Interrupted is either early 2000s or late 90s. I think it might be 2001 where she really hits the scene. I think 90s she did Hackers. That was her big movie.
Oh, yeah. There's probably an argument to be made about Sandra Bullock as well, because she had like Speed, The Net, Miss Congeniality.
Congeniality is 2000s.
Okay.
And I think 2000 when she gets her Oscar run because she does The Blind Side in the 2000s as well.
Yeah.
But then Sandy B is been working consistently for a while. She's still always doing stuff. Nice one. Great list. Really like your list. There's a couple I haven't seen, which is always good, but the ones I have seen are all epic. And no, I know I saw all of them. I have seen all of them. I just couldn't talk much about Rush Hour or Heat because it's been a little while. The last thing we do in the episode is our rapid fire questions. Obviously, we'll keep it nice and quick because we have gone a little bit long today. This was the toughest one for me because as we progress through the topics, I find it hard and hard to find questions. So, Nick, the 90s rapid fire round. I've got a couple of questions for you. The first thing I want to know, this is an unfair question. Which 90s movie has the best poster?
I'm going to go The Phantom Menace.
And is it just the character poster, or is it the one with Anakin walking along in the shadow, or?
Yeah, character poster.
That's the exact same answer Maddie gave on her episode recently.
Oh, really?
I wondered if you go with Independence Day, because isn't the poster of Independence Day the White House blowing up? That's pretty cool.
Oh, that is pretty epic. Yeah, that is pretty epic. I just didn't think of that.
That and Jurassic Park, obviously a cool poster. But I'll take Phantom Menace. It's a great poster. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. All right, which 90s actor or actress is due for a comeback? They're big in the 90s. We haven't seen a lot of them lately. Who are we ready to see a comeback for?
Jeez, that's a great one.
A la Brendan Fraser. Like, he was the inspiration for this question. As you can see, I've got BF on the mind at the moment.
Yep. I love it. Great question. I'm just mentally doing a Rolodex of people who have disappeared. You know what? Even though he was working into the 2000s, like I reckon there's like a final phase left for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, because I don't know if he's got the range and the ability to not just be like a muscly action dude. But I just feel like we had phase one was him as a young man, sort of like early 80s to like Terminator.
Yeah.
Phase two was like Commando through to like 2000, where he was just like a massive action star. Then we got like family and comedy Arnie, and the comeback hasn't really since and then he went into the politics and stuff like that. So I don't. Hopefully, there's just like one last run for him to just like do some character work.
He was in a movie about 10 years ago called Maggie. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was a zombie film. And what I want now, I didn't even think about it, but now you said, I really want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's Logan movie. Like, that's what I want to see, like a grizzled old like dad or like ex like army guy or whatever, or just like on his last mission. King Conan obviously would be great as well, like an old man Conan the Barbarian. Like, maybe that's the way you do it. But yeah, I would never have picked him. But really glad you mentioned it. Maybe we get to see like a grizzled old Mr. Freeze, like give a chance to reprise that role in a more serious tone. Alrighty. Which 90s movie could be best improved by the technology of today? So it doesn't have to be CGI, but it could be, or maybe it's just something that James Cameron has invented in the last 10 years.
Geez, great question. A lot of the films that I picked and that you've mentioned as well, because I didn't have Independence Day on my list, even though it should have been, I think actually stand up pretty well. I'm trying to think of some
surprisingly
dodgy.
well. A lot of them,
Yeah. Bear with me, listeners.
The rapid fire this round is particularly tough. I had to start thinking of different questions.
Oh, I know. It's I'd love to. In fact, we did get it, and I did actually think it was a pretty decent movie. But like the Total Recall, there's some pretty dodgy. Like I don't know if you recall when he opens his his mask, when he's dreaming, and he opens his mask on Mars.
Yeah.
But we did actually get the remake of that with Colin Farrell about 10 years ago, and I actually thought it was a pretty good movie. But
I've never seen the remake, but I did want to check it out. But like once I saw it, the problem I had with that film, again, having never watched it and I was being very snobby, was it was rated M, and that was the issue I had with the RoboCop remake, where I'm like, well, if you're making it PG-13 in America, I'm never going to get that scene where RoboCop like shoots the junk off a dude who's trying to assault a hooker. So it's not RoboCop to me.
Yeah.
And once they kind of were like going for PG-13, I'm like, well, I know we're not going to see like Quado, and we're not going to see like a 3-boob woman. I don't know if you do or not. Like, but I feel they're going to censor a lot of it. You're going to get a censored version, but I think that a '90s, like an updated tech version of Total Recall is a great call. And that puts us on the last question of the rapid fire. It's really hip and popular now to do like sequel series. Cobra Kai being the perfect example. So, which '90s movie do you think deserves a mini series or a TV show sequel?
I'd love to see like the child of Jenny and Forrest Gump, see what he's up to now.
What a great idea. Never would have picked that, but because you can literally do the same thing, like just narration and like him kind of being involved in like Facebook.
Yeah.
Or
It's like, is he simple? We'll find out in 8 parts on Netflix.
Like, is he simple? Or like he's there to help the founding of like the Arctic Monkeys, or like he's like just replace all the circumstances with like modern references.
Oh, wait,
Like
I say the child of Forrest Gump. Isn't his name Forrest because he was named after his daddy?
That's true. So it's just Forrest Gump too.
Yeah.
Or like Forrester Gump.
Junior.
Excellent. Forrest Gump Jr. That is well done. Nice one, man. Well, we got through it relatively timely. We'll wrap things up now. Obviously, I want to thank you once again for joining the show. It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on, and always some great content generated.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back, mate. I don't know if it was part of your plan, but I'm ready for 2000 to 2010 as well.
That'll be coming up. We've got a big event coming up shortly. I can tease it. The 50th episode is on its way, and Nick and I have been having a lot of conversations about the planning, as well as a couple of other guests, which I'll keep on the DL for the time being. But in the meantime, I want to thank you all for listening to the show once again. If you get a chance, follow us on Instagram. I was a teenage film snob, _ between every single word. Like and review the podcast, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. 5-star reviews, nothing lower than that, or get out. No, just kidding, of course. Write whatever you like. We'll take any attention. I'm that desperate for it. And until then, as we always say, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.